Broadcasting by way of Gallifrey. Stand by for podcast. This is Voices from the Vortex.
Voices from the Vortex reviews Series 8, Episode 8, Mummy on the Orient Express.
Well, hello out there, everybody.
Hello!
Hello! Welcome to the podcast.
This one will only be 66 seconds long.
And go! Oh my god.
I see bandages.
It was really good, yes.
I see a Taylor. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, I'm Matt. I see my thing going along as it's recording. Let's see, what else? Oh, jeez.
There was things that happened. Definitely guest stars. Lots of punchy lines.
I don't want to do this podcast. I'll give you anything. Anything. My worldly possessions. Anything at all.
Thank you for this very much, Taylor. I found my courage.
That little pop noise. Just
hello
kidding, everybody.
out there.
Yeah, this is Taylor.
This is Matt.
And you are listening to Voices from the Vortex review. Mummy on the Orient Express. All right.
Mummy on the Orient Express. So, going into this, I'm just glad that this episode happened. I'm very glad this episode happened.
Me too. This episode was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all been waiting for this episode for a little while. I know we've been talking about this for a while. Ever since the end of season 5. This is sort of, they kind of teased this, and then they didn't do it, of course. And I guess when they finally said, no, we're going to do this now, I'm glad we waited for it, because I don't think this, like anything this season, this could have been a Matt Smith episode and probably have done really well, but I actually like that it was Capaldi in this episode.
Yeah, he was great. There was a lot of, what I noticed about him in this episode, there was a lot of, and again, I really haven't seen that much of it. There was a lot of Tom Baker in this. Did you catch that at all? Now,
there was a lot of Tom Baker.
Not just the Jelly Baby reference, which was great, which was awesome. But the one line where there's a part where he's in the cabin and he's talking to himself, and he says, "You know what this sounds like?" And he's like, "A mummy." Like that sounded just like Tom Baker. It was eerie how much it sounded like Tom Baker.
And that moment too, that was such a that was fun. That was such a little doctor talking to himself, and he's almost playing off himself because he loves it.
Yeah,
you could hear it in his voice. That was the greatest thing in the world, was to be able to talk to himself like that. Yeah. Like he was hearkening back to his older hymns, versions of He's.
Can I just say, this was one of the greatest openings of a Doctor Who episode I think I've ever seen.
Right?
It's just like, if I didn't know that this episode was going to be in space, I wouldn't have even known until the very end when they showed the train in space. I was like, oh, right. That's cool. They didn't even... You had the lady and the mummy and the old lady, and it was just like mystery right off the bat.
But in space.
And it was good. And it was only 66 seconds.
You know what this episode was, right?
No, what was it?
This was It's a Mummy on a spaceship.
Yes!
Yes!
On a spaceship.
The spaceship. I'm going to address something right off the bat. This episode did a lot of stuff for us. This really, it gave us a little bit of closure with the last episode with Kill the Moon. I know you and I had a lot of differing opinions on Kill the Moon, and there has been something I have not been able to put my finger on about this Doctor until this episode, and it comes out at the very end. We'll get to that when we get to that in a second. But I feel like this episode really gave us sort of a closure to Kill the Moon, and then gave us a closure to why the Doctor has been such a dick lately. And we'll talk about that when we get to it, but I did want to say this.
You're such a tease.
I know.
We'll talk about it later.
Stay tuned. No, I loved, after this commercial break. I love the 66 seconds. I know I've read a lot of stuff online. People, some critics and fans of the show have just absolutely hated that. They said it was stupid. They didn't like, why did that clock have to be on there? And why did, look, guys, honestly, I think that was the funnest part of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Was by far and wide, you knew the mummy was coming, and it was so shticky and gimmicky, but it worked. it made this episode feel like a cheesy horror film. And it needed that.
This was the most tense I've ever felt watching a Doctor Who episode, on account of the 66 seconds and the mummy, and you knew it was coming to get you. You knew the person was going to die. There was nothing they could do about it. It was just like so... Oh, it was good. One of the best and coolest ideas for just a Doctor Who episode in general, I thought. A great idea for a monster. Too bad they can't, bring that back somehow. It was like, they solved the crisis. Because that's a great monster.
Well, and it opened up a whole bunch of doors for some new questions. And when we get to start talking about Gus, but let's back up a couple things. The very beginning was good. You're right. I liked that a lot. I liked the whole setup for the episode. That was a lot of fun. I wanted to point out something. I love some of the little references in this episode that harken back to everything that happened with Eccleston, Tennant, and Smith. This episode had a lot of little connections, and a lot of it was in the writing, and a lot of it was in what they said. Capaldi said of the black hole gobbled up by that beast, and I loved that because that is he's talking about it the same way they talked about the black hole from The Impossible Planet. Tennant called it a beast, that it just kept eating and eating and eating. And that's the beast below, or the beast below, the beast in the black hole. There was there was the Satan pit.
Yeah,
it was the devil, the beast. So for him to identify that, to associate that, and say this is actually something that I'm not scared of, but I respect. I thought that was kind of cool.
And then of course, probably the best freaking line in the whole episode. Are you my mummy? That's the best.
Everybody was waiting for
it. Loved it. So glad they went there. It's so funny.
I did like one of the things she said to him as they were talking, and he said something about that's the way that I do it, and she says, no, not the way you do it. Clara was kind of putting him down a little bit, saying, no, the real you doesn't do it this way. The real you is Matt Smith. Clara, again, kind of hearkening back to who the Doctor used to be.
Yeah. And I was wondering about that when she says, not the way you do it. Did she mean the Doctor, or did she mean this new Doctor?
I think she was trying to dig at Capaldi's Doctor. I think she was trying to say, no, the real you wouldn't have done it this way. And she accepts that Capaldi is the Doctor, but I think she was trying to say that this one was not the one who should have been there.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation of it.
Well, let's talk about this this idea that this is their last hurrah. I thought that was kind of sweet, because if this had been the last Clara episode, that's kind of a sweet way to do it. They never really had... There was never real, this will be our last adventure together, and then I'll drop you off at home and say goodbye. It'll be great. It just happened, and he would lose them, or they would decide to leave just then and there and not do anymore.
We'll get into a little of that too at the end, but you're right. This was... Why did the Doctor bring her here? If he knew that this was her saying one last trip, why here? And he makes reference to it later about Gus, when, as we find out, with Gus being whatever it was that was in charge of this train, was setting all this up, who or whatever Gus is, he knew going in that this was a trap. He knew something was going to happen.
Or at least he hopes.
Right. We talked last time in Kill the Moon, we talked a lot about the difference between Clara and Courtney. And I want to bring some of that up too, because I think this is important about why he brought her here. I think the Doctor, this version of the Doctor, is very, very sure as to who Clara is for him. That she is special. We've talked about that before too, you and I, Taylor. She's his carer. She cares for him. But she's more than the impossible girl. He knows she's special. Now, if you remember in Kill the Moon, the whole thing starts with Clara really dogging on the Doctor, saying, you said that Courtney wasn't special, you have to fix it. I think that pissed the Doctor off. I think it pushed him a little bit. Because he knows Clara is special. He doesn't care if Courtney's special or not. He probably knows Courtney's really not that special as a person. You know, own little snowflake, whatever. But she's not special, like Clara is special. So when he took Clara and Courtney to the moon, he did two things. For Courtney, he was trying to show her, you're not special. You're special because I brought you. I will make you special by putting you as the first woman on the moon. But that's it. Tough. That's how you're special. And I think he proves that. And then I think he was also trying to show Clara, you are special, and it doesn't matter what I say to other people, because you're the one that I want traveling with me. And how did he do that? He let Clara pick, right? Mm-hmm. He let her choose what would happen to the moon. I don't think at any point in time he wouldn't have done the right thing. He wouldn't have stepped in if Clara chose wrong, but I think he trusted her. He trusted her to make the right choices. Clara gets so upset at him at the end of Kill the Moon. She's so pissed that he would do this to her, that he put her in this horrible position, that she would have the fate of everything in the, every life of human life, like hanging on the choices that she would make there. But then he was trying to show her that she was special. That's my interpretation, and here's how this episode becomes the sort of the finale to it. If this is their last hurrah, and the Doctor knows that this is going to be like a trap, that something's going to happen here, then the reason he brings her is to once again show her, but you are incredibly special to me, and I can't do these things without you. He knew she would change her mind once she got a chance to be a part of his life again, once she let herself realize that he needs her because she is special. Now, this episode, he convinces her to lie to an innocent person that she knows is going to die.
Yeah. And
he makes her make those hard choices again, doesn't he?
Yeah, so this almost backfires for him, almost, because she almost gets pissed at him again. But we come to find out at the end, it's like, well, you had to lie to her because you had to keep Gus unaware of what was going on.
Right.
There's always the reasons, and I like at the end when she says, so you were just pretending to be heartless. And he says, would that make it easier for you to think?
I think that final speech, though, between the two of them, there's more to that than you're seeing, right? Or than we're reading into
right.
it. What does he do there at the very end? What does he tell her? He tells her, there are terrible choices to be made, right? Sometimes the only choice you can make is a bad choice, but you have to make a choice. What did he do to her just an episode before, just a couple of weeks before? It was a terrible choice to make.
Either way, yeah.
And he made her make it.
Yeah.
So she would see that she was special, that she was important to make those choices. He trusts her to make those choices the way she has to trust him to make them. I think this episode was him giving the final lesson, or the final word on the lesson that he was trying to teach her. Because everything that happens on the train, she has to trust that he's making the right choices, even when she knows the choices he's making are really bad ones. Yeah. He's letting people die. Why? Because he's trying to figure it out. I think that, when she says, you just put on a face in order to, you just pretend to be like that, and he says, well, if that's what'll make you sleep better at night, I think that's his way of saying, you can justify whatever we did however you want, but you know the truth.
I'm trying to think back to like Matt Smith and David Tennant, and they had to make horrible decisions, but I think the difference is Matt Smith put on a happy, goofy, silly face and made jokes, and whereas this Doctor is grumpy and sort of heartless at the fact, and tries and sort of makes jokes, but sort of in a mean way, like when the professor who was of ancient alien studies or whatever, it was his turn to die, and he said, this is my life, I want to do it, and he's like, well, then make it count. He was kind of joking around and help us out, and he knew that he couldn't save the guy, but he knew that it was important that they figure out what it was. So his sort of defense mechanism there is sort of pretending to be heartless.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it. The more I watch this season, the more I'm beginning to understand Capaldi's Doctor, and I really wish some of this had been present up front, so I didn't have to worry so much episode to episode. think about what they said from Deep Breath. Matt Smith puts on a baby face because he wants the universe to like him, right? He wants everyone to accept him. That's why he looked young. He was flirting with the universe. But why would he do that? Why would David Tennant do that? You're right when you say that they had to make terrible choices, hard choices. I think to a point, the Doctor, right after the Time War, was so scarred by the loss of his people that he wanted everybody to like him again and not see the horrible things he had done.
And there's the ultimate horrible choice.
Which he had to make.
Yeah.
So if he puts on a pretty face, right, and he gets very emotional, Matt Smith and David Tennant would both feel the choices they made. They would feel so terrible about them, and it would affect them. And then finally, you get to Trenzalore after we've figured out that Gallifrey is going to be fine, it's been saved, and he accepts death, and he regenerates into Capaldi. So what is Capaldi's thing? Why is Capaldi so gruff and mean with everyone? He no longer requires people to accept him. He accepts that he is going to make those terrible choices, just like he did before. But the difference is he doesn't want people to feel bad about it, and he doesn't want people to feel sorry for him. He doesn't want to feel sorry for himself anymore either. He's already felt that. He's already gone through that emotional gamut. And now he just wants to feel like he's going to make those choices, whether anyone likes it or not. So he puts on this sort of gruff demeanor so people can at least say, well, he was just being a jerk. He was just being a dick. Well, he's being stupid and funny, and I don't like him. And I want him to go as far away from me as possible. That's fine, because he doesn't care. He's busy. He's saving the universe. And
right.
He no longer needs your approval.
Well, and an interesting thought we get to here at the end also is Clara mentions, is it like an addiction? And he's like, well, I'd never know. I've never given it up.
Yeah.
And I'd say he did a little bit in the Power of Three, and I think he went a little crazy.
Yeah, kind of. Just a
little bit. So I think it is an addiction for him. I think that's true.
But let me ask you this. Is it really just because is he doing these things because he wants to? Is he doing these things because he feels responsible? Or is he doing these things because he feels a calling to do them? All the other doctors have always joked about, I just want a simple life and I just want to see the universe and travel and whatever. But have we reached a point where he feels a sense of pull, of universal obligation? He's had 2,000 years to do stupid things and make a lot of mistakes. Now it's time to fix it. And he's no longer going to accept, should I do it this way or should I do it that way? He's going to accept, I know what to do. I should just make the choice. I don't think for him it's an addiction. I think for him it's a call. It's who he has become. He is no longer a Time Lord, the Doctor. He is the only thing in the universe which might actually have the resume to be savior and hero. And he accepts it, and he knows it, and he's fine with it, because his people are safe out there somewhere, and he'll find them one day. The Earth is safe every time he makes a choice, and the people he takes with him now are special. They're not soldiers. They're willing to make hard choices to save people. I really think we're seeing a new generation of Doctor.
Yeah, this season has been really interesting, and this one was great. This episode was great too because it was very mystery on a train. It was very
it was
Agatha Christie, Sherlock Holmesian, and his demeanor the whole time was great, and I loved it. I loved the side character Parker, the chief engineer. He was pretty amusing. My favorite line of his was when the Doctor goes, he gives him all those plans and maps and stuff. He goes, that was quick work, maybe too quick. And the guy goes, you know what? You're right. I must be the mummy.
or
this one, isn't it?
I like that a lot. I liked him.
I did too.
I don't know who that actor is. Apparently, he's big in Britain.
I think he's a comedian or just a comedy actor in Britain. He was good.
Well, and it was such a big deal that he was on that train. I'm sorry, he's on Doctor Who, that he's on this episode. So I like that the Doctor offers him to stay, and he thinks about it.
And fix it and just kind of hang out. Because, he was good. he was good in a pinch, and he seemed like a sort of a simple train engineer who was never, gone anywhere and done anything exciting. So,
right.
I also loved the part where he goes, "I'm your worst nightmare," and he shows him the psychic paper. He goes, "Oh, mystery shopper. That's your worst nightmare."
Your worst nightmare?
All right, I'm a mystery shopper. Disappointed in your breakfast.
It also doesn't get him nearly as far as it wants to.
No, it doesn't.
Can't get through a lot of doors as a mystery shopper.
Yeah.
There was a really great line where he's talking at the end. Life would be simpler if you like the people you're supposed to like. He mentions she mentions fairy tales.
Mm-hmm.
That is Amy right there.
Yeah.
Wouldn't Amy's life have just been simpler if she liked Rory and never liked the Doctor? She was a fairy tale.
Yeah.
She did all the things she wasn't supposed to do, and then her life became far more complicated. And maybe that's where Clara comes in too. Maybe everyone's a fairy tale.
I mean, that's just total. That's total symbolism right there. Wouldn't it be easier if you just liked Danny and didn't know the Doctor and didn't, not that she loves the Doctor, but that she can't stop, which we'll see at the end here. She can't stop traveling with him, and it's hard. She has to make that choice too, almost. It's not that interesting, but I thought it was cool. They mentioned, says the 2,000-year-old man. So, that's like it's kind of a timestamp. I like those sometimes. Little continuity. We know now he's 2,000 years old. He mentions that at the beginning of the season, but
right. We had a bit of a discussion about that. But yeah, and even a Trenzalore, he makes reference to how long he's been there, and you can kind of do the math. But yeah, this is sort of you're right, a time and date stamp saying no, he's 2,000, he's 2K.
I really liked the idea of the foretold. I loved it. The idea of something that was happening on this train, and they weren't sure what it was. They're like, well, maybe it's this like ancient story about this mummy. It was cool that it was something that was already a thing. Like it was an old thing, and they were just now getting around to like solving the mystery of it. Mm-hmm. I thought that was pretty neat. And I just love the idea, too, of the mummy being the soldier, and he had the tech inside of him, and just the whole explanation for it. Again, this was a really, really great idea for a monster and for everything, and it was really cool. I really liked it.
Is it just me, or this season seems to be really big on the emphasis of what a soldier is? And we're seeing the differences of how a soldier can be more than just a soldier. The Doctor has shown several times how much he hates soldiers in this season. Right off the bat with Into the Dalek, and you get a soldier that he refuses to take with him because she's a soldier. And then you have the Dalek, which is a soldier on its own, and he's trying to make a good Dalek by changing it so it no longer wants to be a soldier. But, still takes orders.
Yeah.
And then we see Danny Pink, who's a soldier, and the idea that he doesn't like Danny because Danny was a soldier, and Danny just follows orders. And here we have a mummy who is a soldier in a war, and he sees it, he solves this mystery because it's a soldier. It's just, everything's building. There's ideas of soldiers. Yeah,
there's a definite through line there with that, which brings us to who the heck was Gus? Right?
There and therein. He's lied to me several times, trying to get me to come here. He called me on the TARDIS once, Who is Gus? Is it a computer program? Is it a person? How does it have the TARDIS's number?
Exactly.
How was it able to contact him through time and space?
They tried to breeze over that, but I heard it. He says, and you know how hard it is, and she interrupts him. And I'm like, no, go into that. That's important.
Yeah.
You know who it reminded me of a little bit? It sounded like was Max Capricorn from the Titanic.
It did a little, didn't it?
It sounded a little like that guy. I wonder if it was the same voice.
My name is Max.
And the line that really got me about Gus and really got me thinking about him is Claire's telling him, "Oh, hey, there's a force field around the TARDIS, but if he knows what it is, that means he knows what you are." Yeah. And not many people know that he's a Time Lord. He doesn't go around boasting about that a lot.
Well,
sometimes he does, but usually, you know, when people find out a Time Lord and they know what that is, they kind of go, "Well, you know what?" Especially after the Time War.
And it's not even that it wasn't even that Gus goes, "Oh, he's a Time Lord. I have to put up a force field." Gus already knew to put up a force field. Gus already understood what a TARDIS was, or he understood what a Time Lord was. That doesn't mean, you know, that you're right. He doesn't go around telling everyone he's a Time Lord. In fact, as we've seen throughout the entire show, most people think Time Lords are myths because of the Time War. So whatever this is understands that the Doctor is dangerous because it's a Time Lord, and was prepared for that contingency. That's something the Doctor has faced before. That's something that's preparing to face the Doctor. That's something far more dangerous than anything else. If it was just something that figured out he was, "Oh, I got to put a force field around this," and did, that's something different. That's something figuring out what he has at that time. Gus knew. Gus has tried to bring the Doctor here. The Doctor even said that. I mean, Gus understands. So that's more dangerous than anything.
Yeah, I really hope that they revisit this again. Or this is part of... Maybe this is part of the whole Missy storyline.
Maybe.
Who knows? Maybe that mummy, that soldier, maybe he ended up back like all young again. He ends up back in heaven. You know, he finally was able to die. Mm-hmm. And maybe he ends up back in heaven. That would have been cool if they'd shown that. I should be writing for that. No, anyway. But maybe that's part of it. So she needed him. She needed this mummy. So she's the one who has been trying to get the Doctor to go. You know, who knows what it is. But I'm hoping that they revisit this and not just, you know, much later.
Well, and there are seeds in all of this. What was that device that they had on the train? It extends people's lives. It was a piece of tech.
It was the chair that the old woman was sitting in.
It extends her life.
Yeah.
It's interesting that would be there at the same time as a soldier, which has existed for thousands and thousands of years, which is well beyond when a soldier should be alive. You know, it's literally rotting away. The mummy was. Uh-huh. So, and if we're talking, you know, Missy and everything we've seen talking about heaven and extending the life, maybe, of the people that she pulls that are supposed to be dead, all this tech could be a part of the same thing. This could all be little clues leading us to where we're supposed to go.
Yeah, and well, the other interesting thing, too, at the end of this, is Gus decides to kill everyone. He's like, you know, survivors are not necessary for this experiment. And he starts to kill everyone at the very end. He starts to let all the air out. And I thought that was interesting, too, because that kind of throws a cog in the theory that it's maybe Missy, because I'm sure Missy wants to meet him. So, you know, why would she kill him right there and then and there on the train? Unless he goes right to heaven. He dies.
Well, and remember, the Doctor doesn't necessarily need to breathe like we do. That's right. From the old show, too, but that's also in the new show. So if Missy knows who the Doctor is, Missy would know the Doctor would survive. What does she care if anyone else on the damn train survives? She just wants the Doctor.
Yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting part of it.
I agree.
I really also enjoyed the Doctor's solution to this whole thing. Mm-hmm. He puts the girl's grief or whatever, her psychological problem, in his head, or her memories, or whatever he did, so that then he can see the mummy. And I loved his thing earlier when he was like, you know, a minute with that thing and this whole thing would be over. I loved it.
And it was.
Which was really arrogant of him, but that really reminded me of, you know, moments with Tenet, or when, you know, when he's like Midnight, where he's like, because I'm clever, you know, and things like that. You know, people are really dogging on Capaldi for being so mean, but really, I mean, the others were mean too. They really were. They just were like really silly all the other times.
I like that he basically. You're right, and I like what he did with putting it in himself so that he could see the mummy, and that basically he was playing Russian roulette. And he was like, okay, but I can totally do this, and I can solve it in a minute. It was arrogance. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Matt Smith jumping in the way of a Cyberman arm going, look at me, I'm a target.
Yeah.
He knows it's going to be solved. He knows he can fix it. He knows if he lets the pressure get to him, it'll all come back to him.
He works. He likes. I think it's Into the Dalek, where he's like, oh, something bad is happening, and they're like, and he's like, oh, that's good. And they're like, oh, why is that good? He goes, I work well under pressure, or something like that. It just perfectly sums up, the Doctor. He likes the challenge, and he likes he works better. Which this episode, you got 66 seconds to work it out. Mm-hmm. That's the best pressure there.
Last but not least, I think there's one more thing that I really this episode did for me that other episodes have not done in a very long time. This whole season has been about uncertainty. Not knowing who this Doctor is, not knowing his relationship with Clara, not knowing how he's going to respond to threats new and old. But more importantly, now we're at a point where we don't know who is safe, who isn't, and why they are or aren't safe. This episode answers so many questions for us about why the Doctor acts the way he does. So we're not worried. I'm not worried about his motives anymore because it seems to be borne out from what we see here. But who's safe? Who's he willing to sacrifice? Is he going to sacrifice Danny Pink? Would he sacrifice Clara if she no longer became useful to him? I just don't know. I don't see it anymore. And I don't know the level of threat. The threat seems so big. The threat is Gus is working behind the scenes? Is Missy working behind the scenes? Is everything he doing leading up to a huge mistake? And I just don't know what's safe anymore and what isn't. And it's a new place to be watching Doctor Who.
Yeah, this through line is really interesting because usually the Doctor is mostly aware of it. He's heard of the Promised Land, but they really haven't talked about it that much. It's us as the audience. We're aware of the sort of the situation and what's building, and the Doctor isn't. They're just going about their business. One thing that I thought was not out of character for the Doctor, but out of character for this Doctor so far was Clara calls him on the phone, and he's talking, and she's trying to tell him. And he just keeps talking, and finally she yells, I'm trapped. And what does he do? He rushes to. He's like, Clara, what's wrong? He rushes to her aid, and I just haven't. You know what I mean? Didn't that seem sort of maybe like he was trying to be more considerate? You know what I mean?
What? And that's very possible. The end of the last episode, he thought he was doing what he was supposed to do. I think he honestly felt he was being respectful to Clara.
Right.
And even though I believe he was teaching her a lesson and teaching Courtney a lesson, I think he thought she would understand, and she just got so pissed. And I think he recognizes that he has been gruff with her. He's put on that facade that he puts on for others, but he's done it for her. And maybe he's starting to realize she doesn't get that he's doing all this stuff. She doesn't see it.
Right. I almost expected him to be like, you're stuck. Where? Yeah. You're like, well, have you tried getting out or something? Have you tried, whatever?
Right.
I expected him to say something like that, but he immediately rushes off to save her. She didn't say I'm trapped and the mummy's right behind me. No, she just said I'm trapped, and he acted like she was in serious danger. So I do think, especially after the last episode, he's trying to be a little bit more of what she likes and what she wants. And it reminds me of the line where I don't remember exactly which episode it's from, but he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Being nice." And she says, "Why?" Because it seems to work on you. So yeah, I think he's realizing that even though he doesn't care anymore, like you said, even though he doesn't care what people think anymore, it does matter a little bit what his close friends think, and
because he wants them around.
Because he wants them around, yeah.
He's finally admitting that he wants her there.
Yeah. The last thing I had was the very end. So Clara decides to stay after this, and I think it was the whole scene on the beach that sort of convinced her.
That was a good scene.
Yeah, and it's what it did. It seemed like a really quick change of heart. to me. At first, I was almost like, well, that was quick. Then I thought about it. It's been several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this season a lot. They've been jumping like weeks, and like every episode, it's like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. So yeah, it had jumped ahead, so it wasn't that big, and then it reminded me a lot of Good Man Goes to War. Amy's like totally almost frightened of the Doctor at the end of that episode a little bit. Mm-hmm. You know, she's mad at him because, you know, he lost the baby and all that. Yeah. And then in the next episode, Let's Kill Hitler, you know, she's all like, they don't really mention that again. They don't really like go into that again. They're like, oh, well, because it was Melody, then we're good. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fine, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, it turns right around. So, but I'm sure there was a lot of time in between those episodes also. But yeah, it seemed really quick at first. And then the other thing was, I don't know how Danny's going to react to this. Is he going to be mad? Mm-hmm. I think that may be sort of a conflict in the future, maybe.
Well, she's lying to him now.
Oh, definitely.
And she's bought into, once again, whatever the Doctor's selling. And he wanted that. I think he needed her to see that I'm doing all this because it's important, and you're here because you're important. So I feel like he tried. He tried to get her to understand that. And maybe he even thought she was getting it. Again, he's been putting on this face for everyone. And really, honestly, sincerely, I think he thought she was buying it. She figured it out. She knew who he was. But she has no idea. She was getting it all wrong. And now, finally, she's gone through through fire, and she gets it. And
finally, Claire, we only got like 4 episodes left.
Yeah.
Get it together.
Glad you spent this time with your loved one boyfriend, because I'm not so happy about his chances.
Yeah, we're not too sure.
Sorry. He's not in the billing for the Christmas special.
No, I don't. Yeah. So, you know, I really love the end of this. I really love the ending. And, you know, that's interesting, too, that you talked about, that we're talking about Danny Pink. Because I want to talk about him for a second. I was under the impression that he was supposed to be a new companion. He's barely done anything yet.
They said he was going to be there, but he wasn't necessarily going to travel with them.
He's been on the phone a lot. Yeah. That's about it.
He's a busy man. He's a gym teacher. He's a maths teacher.
No, it's maths.
Just maths teacher?
Maths, as they say in England.
Right.
Maths.
Look, guys, it's just math. There's no more than one math.
Or mathematics.
It's all math. It's mathematics. I know you like to think that calculus and algebra and trigonometry are all like different subjects. They're all math. I get they're different, but they're all math.
Right.
Get over it.
We're picking a fight. We're picking a fight with other countries.
And I dare them to come over the pond and pick this fight with us, because you would have to understand all your maths to sail a boat. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you do.
Nope.
Well, you can seriously, you can't see my faces, but I'm being ridiculous.
It's the evil eye. Okay, so final thoughts on this episode.
Loved it.
I really loved this episode.
I feel closure.
I do too. And definitely one of my favorite episodes, not just of this season, but I think ever. I really loved the train, the mummy, the mystery of, you know, why all the scientists were there, and then Gus was all of a sudden Gus was the computer, and it had trapped them there, and it was forcing them to work on it. I loved it. I thought it was such a great story, and just a great ride. Yuck. And and if people were to ask me what's my favorite episode, I would choose this one.
Oh, you pulled a Ralph.
Oh, this episode was right on track.
Please stop. I don't think you could engineer any more puns.
Oh! Bam. Oh, so anyway, yes, really great episode.
Sorry, those puns ran out of steam.
We need to train a little more.
I think I need to go make a call to my mummy. Took it in the other direction.
Oh.
Sorry.
All right. Well,
let's wrap this up.
Let's. Whoa! This is the worst. All right. So
where's he gonna come from next? You never know. You don't know. You just don't know.
So this episode is over, which means everyone.
Oh, it does. But it's. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hold on. Aside from the fact that I did a really good one about getting off the rails, but I want to change the name of this segment. I'm sorry. This season has had absolutely the worst that I've ever seen. So, ladies and gentlemen, brand new segment. Meh. That promo.
Yeah.
Meh.
That promo.
That promo? Was that a promo?
Huh? A promo?
Meh. That little piece of a clip that really wasn't a clip.
Yeah.
Afterward.
So yeah, it's time for the promo. This episode, and I agree with you, Matt. The only exciting thing about this promo was that I hadn't really seen much about this episode yet.
Right.
So this was the first I'd heard of, like, what it was going to be about, what sort of monster it was, what the problem was. So it seems pretty neat. This is an Earth episode, which is great. And it looks like, to me, the Doctor is going to be stuck inside the TARDIS, and it's up to Clara to save the day. She even says, I'm the Doctor, but you can call me Clara.
To which the Doctor responds, just don't call her late for dinner. Dad joke.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my favorite part of this was: the propped up collar.
Who's
at the end? Capaldi? The Doctor, his jacket, he had a propped up collar inside the TARDIS.
Popping collars.
Like, look at that! He's bringing it back.
So something's wrong with the TARDIS, because at the end too he says, life support failing.
Right. Oh, that can't be good.
So who knows what's going on? It's all dark in there.
People are stuck in walls, and there's aliens looking at the third dimension.
Yeah, and maybe this is the name of this episode is Flatline. So, and it's written by the same guy who wrote Mommy on the Orient Express. So, yes. So I'm excited to see what this one's all about too, because if that guy wrote it, and I love that episode, which we just discussed, then I think I'm going to really like this one too. At least I hope so.
We better, otherwise we're going to come back and kick that episode in the caboose. Man, it's got a
what have I done? Why? So yeah, I really like the idea of this whole season's been Clara-centric, basically, but this whole idea of this Clara-centric episode, this is almost the reverse of The Lodger. The Doctor's trapped on the TARDIS, and it's up to Clara to do whatever, and he's got to relate to her what to do. And she's got the sonic screwdriver, and I think this one is the one where we've seen some promo, some footage shots where the TARDIS is really small, and it's sort of a funny gag where they're trying to get out of it. or get in it or whatever. Mm-hmm. Something's wrong with the dimensional whatever. So that should be fun.
The TARDIS wanted to go work out a little bit and lose some freight. Sorry. You know what? Listen. You're absolutely right. This is going to be one of those episodes that's going to focus heavily on Clara because Moffat is a bit of a maestro and he has to conduct her.
You're the worst. You're the worst best friend.
I know.
Oh. You haven't thought about this promo 1 second. You've been thinking of train puns this whole time, haven't you?
I really have.
Oh my god. All right. Well,
that's the ticket.
Oh man.
I love a good pun. That's my best platform.
just you're killing me. I'm dying. I'm not as quick as you.
So guys, listen, we really appreciate you joining us. I swear I'm going to stop at the pun so that way Taylor doesn't die. But
join us next week.
Join us next week for very non-train-ish things. We will not discuss trains. There will not be train puns, he hopes. And hopefully next week we'll also have a really awesome, oh my god, that promo. And not a...
Man, the promo.
Here we go again.
Well, enjoy.
Yeah.
And I want to end this on a train pun, so I'm going to try to think of one.
You're going to try to think of one?
Yes.
You're going to try to stack them up against me? Are you going...
Hold on. I'll get there.
I don't know. I guess we got to... Oh, no.
Hold on. I can do this. I think I can. I think I can.
Look
I
at
think
what
I can come up with a train pun.
That was good. I loved it.
All right, everybody. We will see y'all later.
Have a wonderful, wonderful week.
Aw, that's nice.
Mommy's on a spaceship!
On a spaceship! Voices from the Vortex is written, edited by, and starring Matthew Whitecamp and Taylor Davidson.
With Danielle Davidson as the sexy voice of the TARDIS.
Theme music composed by Brian Wurst.
Visit our website, www.broadcastgallifrey.com.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel for an enhanced podcast experience.
Follow us on Twitter @Vortex Podcast.
Like us on Facebook.
Follow us on Tumblr and Google+.
Subscribe to us on iTunes, and if you like what you've heard, leave a review.
Ask us a fan question through any of these media, and we'll answer it on the podcast.
Thanks for listening, and stay tuned to the Vortex.
End of transmission.